Maybe there's something I didn't think was necessary to tell you.
Pernell Roberts, the man who brought Adam Cartwright to life on Bonanza, often appeared to the public as a true gentleman, calm, confident, and quietly charismatic. But behind that polished exterior was a man who lived by firm principles and always placed his personal beliefs above pleasing others. Pernell never hesitated to speak his mind, even when doing so cost him friendships, roles, or respect within the entertainment industry. While most stars of his era chose silence to protect their image, he deliberately went against the current. To Pernell, honesty mattered more than fame, and that very belief made him one of Hollywood's most misunderstood figures. At lavish Hollywood parties, Pernell made no effort to hide his disdain for certain people. There were actors he openly disliked because, in his eyes, they were arrogant, insincere, or lacking integrity. For Pernell, these were not petty personal grudges but deep conflicts of values and character. Two completely different ways of living and thinking collided, leading him to quietly remember those names on a private blacklist. Today, we take a closer look at the 5 names on that list, and the surprising stories behind each rift. Once you learn the truth, you may never see these Hollywood stars the same way again. And before we begin, if you admire Pernell Roberts or have a fondness for classic Western legends, be sure to subscribe. Because the reality behind Hollywood's golden age is often more dramatic, unsettling, and human than the polished image it once presented. Pernell Elvin Roberts Jr. entered the world on May 18, 1928, in Waycross, Georgia, a modest southern town where the hardships of the Great Depression shaped everyday life. He was the only child of Pernell Roberts Sr., a Dr. Pepper sales manager, and Minnie Myrtle Morgan Roberts, a nurturing mother who quietly fueled her son's imagination and creative instincts. From a young age, Pernell seemed different. While other boys chased sports or trouble, he gravitated toward music and the stage, learning to play the horn in his school band and performing at church events. Those early moments planted a quiet but powerful seed, one that would eventually carry a small-town southern boy into the heart of Hollywood, where he would later emerge as one of television's most complex and outspoken personalities. Despite his obvious talent, acting was never part of Pernell's original plan. After graduating high school, he chose the practical route, enrolling at Georgia Tech with hopes of becoming an engineer. Yet the rigid world of numbers and structure quickly left him unfulfilled. In 1946, his life shifted course when he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, serving for 2 years. Even within the discipline of military life, Pernell clung to his creative side, finding solace in music as he played tuba and horn with the Marine Corps band, keeping his artistic spark alive beneath the uniform. When his service ended, Pernell stood at a crossroads. He could return to a predictable life, or he could risk everything for something more meaningful. Choosing the latter, he enrolled at the University of Maryland, where the pull of the stage grew stronger than ever. Performing in student productions awakened a sense of purpose he had never truly felt before. Acting was no longer a hobby or a distraction, it became a calling. In time, Pernell made the bold decision to leave college behind and devote himself entirely to his craft, setting the stage for a career that would challenge expectations and leave a lasting mark on television history. In the early 1950s, carrying little more than raw determination and a single suitcase, Pernell Roberts set his sights on New York City, a proving ground where dreams were either forged or broken. He enrolled at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, devoting his days to mastering his craft while scraping by at night with whatever odd jobs he could find. Life was difficult, often unforgiving, but Pernell never wavered. In 1952, that perseverance finally paid off when he secured his first stage role in The Man Who Came to Dinner. It wasn't a lead role or a moment of instant fame, but it was something far more important, proof that he belonged on the stage. From that point forward, Pernell's journey stopped being about recognition and started being about purpose. He wasn't chasing applause or celebrity. He was building a career rooted in honesty, discipline, and a quiet defiance against being molded by others. Acting, for him, was not a ladder to climb, but a path he intended to walk on his own terms. Following that early breakthrough, Pernell threw himself fully into theater, and the change was immediate. He didn't just perform, he dominated the stage. With his commanding voice, intense gaze, and total immersion in every role, audiences couldn't look away. Soon, he was taking on some of the most demanding roles in classical theater, including Macbeth, The Taming of the Shrew, and Romeo and Juliet. At the New York Shakespeare Festival, his work earned him a growing reputation as a serious actor, one whose presence alone could still a room. By the late 1950s, that reputation had reached Hollywood. In 1958, Pernell made his feature film debut in Desire Under the Elms, sharing the screen with icons like Sophia Loren and Burl Ives. Even in the company of such legends, he stood firm, restrained, powerful, and convincing. That same year, he ventured into the Western genre with The Sheepman, unknowingly stepping onto a path that would soon define his career. Before long, he was appearing in hit television westerns such as The Virginian and Gunsmoke, steadily establishing himself as one of the most compelling new faces on American television. Then came 1959, the year that would come to define Pernell Roberts' career. He was cast as Adam Cartwright, the intelligent and brooding eldest son on NBC's Bonanza. The series became an immediate sensation, drawing millions of viewers each week and turning the Cartwright family into some of the most recognizable figures on American television. Pernell's performance stood out in particular. As Adam, he was the calm voice of reason, the moral center of the Ponderosa, the thoughtful son audiences admired and trusted. Almost overnight, Pernell Roberts became a household name. But behind the success and public admiration, a quiet struggle was taking shape. The fame was real, yet Pernell felt increasingly unsettled. He began to sense a growing distance between himself and the character that had brought him such acclaim. The scripts felt shallow to him, the moral lessons overly simple, and Adam Cartwright too narrowly defined. While the world embraced the show, Pernell couldn't escape the feeling that he was sacrificing something essential: the authenticity and depth he had always valued as an actor. Pernell Roberts was never known for staying silent when something felt wrong, and on the Bonanza set, that trait made him both respected and feared. Unlike many of his co-stars who were content to follow the script and collect their paychecks, Pernell demanded more. He frequently clashed with the show's producers, voicing his frustration over what he saw as weak writing and a lack of emotional complexity in Adam's character. To Pernell, Bonanza may have been beloved by millions, but beneath its popularity, it lacked meaning. It didn't challenge audiences, didn't raise difficult questions, and didn't push the boundaries of what television could be. In 1965, at the absolute height of his fame, Pernell Roberts made a decision that shocked Hollywood to its core. He walked away from Bonanza. He turned back to the theater, the place where his love for acting had first taken root, while continuing to appear in selective television roles. Rather than chase fame, Pernell chose to rebuild his career on his own terms, role by role. His patience and discipline eventually paid off. By the late 1970s, he found renewed success as Dr. John McIntyre in Trapper John, M.D., a performance that earned critical praise and introduced him to an entirely new generation of viewers. Despite this resurgence, Pernell never softened or reshaped who he was. Beneath his calm presence and reflective gaze remained the same unwavering honesty, and with it, firm opinions about the people he encountered throughout his Hollywood journey. And that brings us to the lesser-known side of Pernell Roberts, the 5 actors he openly disliked, and the unexpected reasons behind each feud. Once their stories are revealed, you may never see these Hollywood legends in quite the same way again. Number 1. Michael Landon. In the early seasons of Bonanza, Pernell Roberts and the show's youngest star appeared to share a warm, almost brotherly bond. Off-camera, they joked, talked craft, and worked together with mutual respect. At first, there was no sign of rivalry. But as Bonanza grew into a massive hit, that balance slowly began to unravel. Michael Landon's popularity surged, and before long, he became the face of the series, the network's favorite and the audience's golden boy. Where fans saw charm and sincerity, Pernell began to sense something else: ambition slowly replacing artistry. As Landon's influence expanded behind the scenes, the tension became impossible to ignore. He took on more control, writing scripts, shaping storylines, and eventually directing episodes. With each new revision, Roberts noticed the same pattern repeating itself. Little Joe always emerged as the hero, while the other characters were pushed further into the background. To Pernell, this wasn't a matter of ego or competition, It was a matter of principle. He believed stories should serve truth and balance, not personal promotion. According to crew members, the breaking point came when Roberts confronted Landon directly, telling him, "You're not trying to make the show better, you're trying to make yourself bigger." From that moment on, whatever friendship they once had was gone. On set, they spoke only when the script required it. What ultimately fueled Roberts's resentment was what he viewed as Landon's carefully crafted public persona, the flawless image of a sensitive, spiritual hero. Pernell didn't buy it. To him, that image felt manufactured, a performance that never stopped. He believed Landon projected depth on screen while avoiding it off-screen. When Pernell made his shocking decision to leave Bonanza, Landon's complete silence, his refusal to acknowledge the departure, felt like the final blow. Years later, when Michael Landon found new fame with Little House on the Prairie, Pernell was asked for his opinion. His response was brief but cutting: "It's the same thing. He's still playing cowboy, still playing saint." One line was enough to reveal how deeply the bitterness still ran, long after the cameras stopped rolling and the Ponderosa had faded into television history. Number 2. Dan Blocker. Unlike his clash with Michael Landon, Pernell Roberts' conflict with Dan was not rooted in anger, but in a deep sense of disappointment. In the early years of Bonanza, the two men shared a sincere connection. Both were classically trained, both believed that even a television western deserved honesty, depth, and respect for the human condition. On set and off, there was mutual admiration, a quiet understanding between two serious actors trying to do meaningful work. But as Pernell's frustrations with the show's direction grew louder, that bond slowly began to fracture. Dan Blocker, known for his gentle nature and his role as the warm-hearted Hoss Cartwright, tried to avoid confrontation. He became the mediator, the one who smoothed tensions and kept the peace. To most people, that seemed admirable. But to Pernell, it felt like abandonment. Roberts believed Dan should have stood beside him when he challenged the show's shallow writing and its insensitive portrayal of Native Americans. Instead, Dan chose neutrality, a decision that, to Pernell, felt like choosing comfort over conviction. Roberts later spoke about it with painful honesty. "Dan had the heart," he once said, "but not the spine. He chose comfort over conscience." It wasn't cruelty, it was heartbreak. The moment that sealed the distance between them came during a tense day of filming, when Pernell, furious over what he called a degrading script, walked off the set in protest. Dan stayed behind, quietly finishing the scene, hoping to keep things from falling apart. Later, when the two spoke, Pernell's voice was calm but heavy with disappointment. "You had a choice. You always had a choice." From that point forward, something was lost. The warmth that once defined their friendship faded into polite distance. Dan never criticized Pernell publicly, but he never defended him either. And for Pernell Roberts, a man who valued loyalty above all else, that silence became the deepest wound of all, one that never truly healed. Number 3. Chuck Connors. Their clash didn't begin on the Bonanza set, yet it quickly grew into one of the most intense conflicts Pernell Roberts ever experienced. Chuck Connors, the towering star of The Rifleman, carried himself like Hollywood royalty, magnetic on screen, commanding in person. To the public, he was the perfect Western hero. But to those working behind the scenes, another version of Connors occasionally emerged. That side revealed itself at a charity gala celebrating legends of Western television. According to witnesses, Connors treated the event as if it existed solely for him. He snapped at staff, brushed people aside without acknowledgement, and barked orders as though everyone present were beneath him. Pernell Roberts watched quietly at first, clearly unsettled. For a man who valued respect, humility, and sincerity above all else, the behavior was intolerable. The final straw came when Connors sharply scolded a young assistant over a minor mistake. When the two men finally crossed paths backstage, the tension was unmistakable. Roberts remained composed, but his words carried weight. He accused Connors of being a fraud, claiming he cared more about his own image than the people who supported him behind the scenes. Connors fired back with bitter laughter, dismissing Roberts as a bitter quitter, a man, he said, who couldn't handle the cost of success. From that moment forward, Whatever civility might have existed was gone. There was no friendship, no mutual respect, only quiet resentment. In private, Pernell would later describe Connors as all hat, no soul, someone who looked like a hero but lacked one in real life. To Roberts, Chuck Connors wasn't just another actor. He represented everything he despised about Hollywood's hollow facade. Number 4. James Drury. The last name on Pernell Roberts' list carried a different kind of weight. This feud wasn't fueled by jealousy or professional rivalry, it was rooted in ideology. Pernell had never hidden where he stood. He openly condemned racism, spoke out against the Vietnam War, and criticized Hollywood for its silence in the face of injustice. James Drury, the reserved star of The Virginian, stood on the opposite end of that spectrum. Firmly conservative, Drury believed entertainment should remain untouched by politics, offering audiences escape rather than confrontation. Their opposing worldviews finally collided in the 1970s during a televised panel on the future of television. Pernell spoke with his usual blunt honesty, accusing networks of cowardice and calling modern westerns comfort food for the masses, empty stories designed to soothe rather than challenge. Drury immediately pushed back, insisting that viewers didn't want lectures, they wanted relief from the real world. The exchange grew tense, the room divided, and by the end, the two men refused even a handshake. Later, Pernell would tell a friend, Drury wasn't just an actor. He was a voice for keeping things exactly the way they were. What troubled him most was Drury's silence during the civil rights movement. To Pernell, silence in moments like that wasn't neutrality, it was complicity. Despite the personal cost, Pernell Roberts never softened his stance. He lived according to his convictions, willing to sacrifice comfort, approval, and even companionship in pursuit of truth. To Hollywood, he was seen as difficult, outspoken, and unyielding. But away from the spotlight, his life told a quieter, more painful story, one marked by isolation, emotional struggle, and the burden of holding himself to the same uncompromising standards he demanded of others. His private life mirrored that inner turmoil. Pernell married 4 times, and each relationship carried its own challenges. His first marriage, to Vera, a theater professor, began in 1951 and brought him a son, Jonathan Christopher Roberts. Pernell deeply loved his son, yet his restless nature and the pressures of a rising career made stability difficult. The marriage ended in divorce in 1959. Though he remained present in Jonathan's life, the strain of fame and emotional distance often complicated their bond. Pernell's later marriages, first to Judith Anna Lear, then to Karanak, also ended in divorce. Friends observed that while he fiercely valued personal freedom, emotional closeness did not come easily to him. Intensely private, he kept his deepest thoughts guarded, often building invisible walls between himself and those who cared for him most. In the end, Pernell Roberts remained a man of principle, brilliant, uncompromising, and deeply human, shaped as much by what he refused to accept as by the legacy he left behind. The deepest wound Pernell Roberts ever carried came in 1989, when his only son, Jonathan, was killed in a motorcycle accident at the age of just 38. The loss shattered him. Friends later said he was never truly the same again. Though Pernell rarely spoke publicly about the tragedy, the grief followed him quietly for the rest of his life, settling into everything he did. In his later years, he found a measure of comfort with his 4th wife, Ella Laner Criswell, whom he married in 1997. They remained together until his death, offering him companionship and a sense of calm. Yet even with love beside him, the weight of failed marriages, lost dreams, and the unbearable pain of losing a child never fully lifted. Pernell lived boldly and independently, but that freedom came at a heavy emotional cost. Behind the confident, principled exterior was a man carrying decades of silent sorrow. Away from the spotlight, Pernell's life unfolded far differently than the image audiences knew. He chose privacy over celebrity, peace over publicity. After leaving Bonanza, he continued acting on his own terms, returning to theater and carefully selecting television roles that aligned with his values. In the 1980s, he found renewed recognition with Trapper John, M.D., captivating a new generation through performances marked by restraint, intelligence, and emotional depth. Yet even as success returned, he never re-entered Hollywood's social circuit. As the years passed, Pernell remained unwavering in his principles. He avoided fan conventions, rarely granted interviews, and devoted himself to music, activism, and the people closest to him. Quietly, he battled pancreatic cancer, facing the illness with the same resolve that had defined his life. On January 24, 2010, he passed away at his Malibu home at the age of 81. His death marked the end of an era. He was the last surviving member of Bonanza's original cast. Though he never chased fame or played Hollywood's games, Pernell Roberts left an undeniable mark on television history. He was a pioneer, one of the first major stars willing to walk away from a hit show rather than compromise his artistic and moral standards. Long before it was common or safe to do so, he spoke openly about social justice, racial inequality, and the responsibility of artists to reflect real life with honesty. His legacy is one of courage, integrity, and an uncompromising vision. Fans remember Pernell not only as Adam Cartwright, the thoughtful eldest son of the Ponderosa, but as a man defined by conviction. His legacy lives not just in the characters he portrayed, but in the risks he took, the principles he upheld, and the lessons he left behind, especially the idea that sometimes the bravest choice is knowing when to walk away. At the time of his death, he left behind an estimated fortune of $10 million, though wealth was never his measure of success. To outsiders, Pernell's career might appear to be the ultimate triumph, decades in Hollywood rewarded with fame and financial security. But to him, none of that held real meaning. Money never motivated him, and celebrity never fulfilled him. Even at the height of Bonanza, when he earned nearly $10,000 per episode and ranked among the highest-paid actors of the 1960s, he felt an unrelenting restlessness, a longing for depth, truth, and purpose. Behind the glamour of television stardom, Pernell struggled with the compromises demanded by the industry. He hated seeing art reduced to a product, emotion packaged for mass appeal, and authenticity sacrificed for ratings. Fame held no magic for him. Purpose did. For a time, he played the role expected of him, but his conscience never allowed him to stay silent for long. While millions admired Adam Cartwright on screen, Pernell marched in Selma alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., not as a celebrity, but as a man refusing to look away from injustice. He challenged the system from within, questioning the absence of people of color behind the camera, criticizing the casting of white actors as Native Americans, and demanding progress in an industry resistant to change. Often ignored, sometimes ridiculed, he spoke out anyway. Pernell Roberts could have stayed, built an empire, lived comfortably in Hollywood's glow. Instead, he chose integrity over applause. He walked away, not out of pride, but out of a relentless need for honesty, meaning, and a life lived entirely on his own terms.